Brace yourself.
Race the Sun came out of nowhere for me. A random pick from a Humble Bundle I got ages ago, this was a game that instantly mesmerized with a clean, minimalist art style and a focus on fast, high-speed action. But few managed to click with me the way Race the Sun did. This modest Kickstarter success took off into a multi-platform hit. But while Race the Sun's gameplay gives off that same modest vibe at the start, it definitely has more going on under the hood than you might expect. Race the Sun has you controlling a solar-powered spaceship dashing at high speeds across a minimalist geometric landscape. While speeding along, obstacles are the most obvious hazard, yet an even more significant challenge is your source of power, the sun. Without sunlight, your ship will slow to a crawl, and with sunset imminent, the goal is to, well, race the sun. Keeping up with the celestial body will keep your ship charged and moving, but as obstacles scatter the landscape, staying powered becomes a fast-paced challenge. Race the Sun is a breakneck racer, taking cues from classics like F-Zero, while also channeling design elements from the endless runner genre. It's frenetic, filled to the brim with white-knuckle intensity, but it presents a unique purpose for the player. So here's today's thesis. Race the Sun encourages versatility for the player, requiring them to assert agency by choosing from diverse objectives, and as a result, prioritizing the selected challenges. Like I said, Race the Sun is a simple game. There are obstacles to avoid and points to score, all while at the mercy of a looming dusk and the threat of your ship's system shutdown. Your sunlight fuel also depletes faster when you fly in the shadow of various landmarks, so if you're behind a pillar or in a tunnel, prepare to have the pressure of potential shutdown bearing down on you. Managing your fuel is a priority, but it's not the only resource that the player must keep an eye on throughout their playthrough of Race the Sun. Another resource to manage is your power-ups. While this does seem extraneous at first glance, your use of a special ability can mean the difference between continuing your run and stopping dead in your tracks. Your power-ups are a frequent lifeline, allowing you another chance to avoid defeat or even map out an entirely new path to victory. For example, the jump power-up lets you soar through the air, dodging obstacles on the ground and getting a bird's eye view. Other power-ups like the emergency portal can help the player withstand a fatal crash and continue their run. These individual items are single-time use, and while they can be found while barreling down the level, using them at the right time quickly becomes a technique worth mastering. Finally, there's the combo multiplier. Passing through blue gates steadily increases your combo bar, and after reaching a certain threshold, your multiplier goes up by 1. Gates are usually organized in sequential fashion, allowing for steady increases in your combo chain. As you can probably guess, the combo chain is completely extraneous and doesn't have a direct impact on your survival throughout the landscape, but alongside power-ups and sunlight, it remains an important resource to manage. Now up until this point, it sounds like these different elements are merely cohabitational, not inherently connected, but they feed into a grander perspective of what Race the Sun's gameplay contributes to the experience. Depending on the player's own choice, these elements increase or decrease in importance. The player can break a combo chain to earn more sunlight to further their run, or avoid a sunlight item altogether to snag a jump power-up instead, in order to plan out a better path from above. In essence, this is the player's decision, and this ability to choose is what fully asserts their agency in Race the Sun's fundamental game structure. Why is this? Because of Race the Sun's overarching design. Race the Sun features a leveling system across all of your playthroughs. As your level increases, you unlock extra items and upgrades for your ship, which can make future runs easier through special effects or buffs. In order to raise your level, you must complete various objectives throughout the main game. These objectives can range from simple ones like obtaining a certain combo multiplier or using a power-up a specific number of times, to more unusual goals like completing a number of regions solely by turning left. Similarly, different objectives can raise levels quicker. Completing one challenge might make a larger increase in experience than another, but can also prove more difficult to complete. Race the Sun's challenges are diverse, with more and more replacing the ones that you complete, but they circulate around the single metagame of leveling up. However, these objectives are never static. You have 3 objectives available to you at a time, and you very rarely have challenges that are too similar to one another. Because of this diversity in the types of objectives, the player is encouraged to change strategies in order to level up their rank. For example, one objective might require you to complete a combo of 15 or more, while another simultaneous objective requires using a select number of jump power-ups. These various objectives are connected to each other in two ways. The first is the leveling system itself. By having an overarching system that these objectives feed into, there is a goal in place. They give the player the freedom of deciding which objective is more achievable and more worth their time, but don't imbalance the system by having these challenges as mere side quests without tangible reward. This is the same philosophy as trophies or achievements in video games, but while those do hold the appeal of bragging rights, that's really all they are, bragging rights. Race the Sun goes one step further by making the challenges hold more importance. There's a gameplay reward to be earned. The concept of incentive is a great way to guide players towards certain behavior, whether it's crucial to completing the game or not. Players are conditioned to believe that when there's a reward on the line, these challenges hold more value to them. And while this doesn't mean that this incentivization is necessarily free of malice, hell, look at the free-to-play market, it's a mindset that can easily influence a player's direction. The second connection is something less explicit. It's the level itself. Since all of these objectives are available while navigating a single level, the stage's architecture does not change. While there is a very wide range of landmarks depending on how far left or right you go, the main layout stays consistent each run. So the various objectives allow the player to traverse the singular level in ways that best serve those objectives. For example, should you choose to stick to the objective where you're only allowed to turn left, your run is going to play entirely differently than a run where you obtain a 15 times combo through the blue gates. The first run is likely to restrict the player to a more rigid path or evade hazards that would otherwise be missed if you were to perform the second run, which would allow for a more flexible path, but with less drastic shifts to one direction. The objectives end up guiding the player's mentality in how each run in Race the Sun will play out. And because of the game's extremely fast pace, requiring split-second decision-making that can border on pure reflexes, these various mindsets will feel totally native and instinctual. So with these two connections combined, the objectives feed into the player's overarching experience of Race the Sun. But they don't act as dominating influences to them. The player is free to ignore any objective they deem too challenging or simply too uninteresting. And since every complete objective is replaced with a new one, the cycle continues to refresh itself and the progression never reaches a point that the player is in no position to advance at all. Unless there's a situation where the player can complete none of the objectives, which already seems unlikely and borderline unreasonable, Race the Sun reasserts a player agency with a continuous stream of objectives to select from. Race the Sun's basic framework is quite simple, and depending on your perspective, rudimentary. But atop this framework is a concept of selectivity, guided by player decision. The individual resources the player must manage play in superbly with the varied objectives. The idea of risk-reward trade-offs is a time-honored tradition in many games, even games very similar in pace to Race the Sun. But the overarching leveling system and consistent track construction tightly interlock with mechanics of resource management. It's this design that gives players flexibility to play their own way, all at a breakneck, instinct-driven speed. Race the Sun is addictive, and its progression system doles out reward in a hooky way, but it's easy to overlook just how much freedom the game systems offer to the player in control. It's so fast, so subtle, that if you blink, you just might miss it.